I'm Ronnie. All the good names are taken. Podcast 31 days, day 4, still by myself. And today we're talking Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers 1, I remember watching it at the movie theater. I don't even know if I was 20 years old yet. And I remember thinking at the end of it, that was a really good movie. Now, part 2. I really like this movie. Ray Wise is great in this movie. The Creeper's back. Justin Long is back for a cameo. The story is really good. The characters aren't too annoying, and it's really concise and simple. It's the last day of the Creeper's 23 days, and he is terrorizing a school bus full of cheerleaders and basketball players that are coming back from a state championship game on a back road. This movie starts off and it really sets the tone for what the movie's going to be about with a very creepy, jump scary opening. There's a blonde-headed kid in the cornfield. He is checking the scarecrows, and behind him you can see the scarecrow move. He notices it, he goes up to it, and the next thing you know, he's getting chased through the cornfield, screaming. His father and his older brother, they notice what's going on. They run into the cornfield just in time to see the creeper take the young boy and fly off into the sky, never to be seen again. The rest of the movie is the farmer and the older brother trying to hunt down the creeper and take care of him. Flash forward to all the drama on this high school bus. I want to say, did they win or did they lose the state championship? I can't even remember, but there's people mad that they didn't get proper playing time. They tease racial tensions between the kids. There's a bunch of girls in this movie that all look sweaty, and 35 is kind of troubling. And then all of a sudden you have a psychic chick that starts having a seizure in the middle of the movie. All of a sudden she realizes she's psychic. I don't know if it's activated because a supernatural creature is nearby. They never really explain it. But if you've watched any of our reviews, you know that I am a sucker for news broadcast, radio broadcast during events. It could be the people in Return of the Living Dead trying to listen to the radio or trying to watch the TV. Same thing for Dawn of the Dead, the Dawn of the Dead remake, Friday the 13th Part 4, where they show the local newscast and the sheriff's assuring everybody that Jason's dead. Halloween 2, where we get to see all that news footage where the streets are just jammed with traffic. I love looking at the aftermath of the movie that we previously watched. In this one, we get the same thing where all the adults on the bus are listening to the radio broadcast of what the police have found in the local area from the first movie. Now, if you don't remember the first movie, the creeper set the church that he'd been staying at on fire with all the remains of his bodies. And on the radio, they talk where they found like 500 bodies ranging from like the last 100 or 200 years. It's something like that. Don't quote me word for word, but they've discovered just a very weird scene. Probably the most unrealistic part of this movie is there's a big redheaded that's driving the bus, or maybe that's the most realistic part. I remember when I used to ride the school bus, it was a big old that drove it. The creeper's hanging out in the cornfield, and he throws a ninja star that's made out of teeth and bone and takes out the tire. For some reason, the adults think it's a good idea just to sit there, even though they have no contact with the outside world. Another good thing here is they can't get their cell phone. I think they have like 2 cell phones in this movie. They can't get it to work. They can't get the CB to work. They're just trapped. Why they didn't keep moving on at that point, I have no idea. Because look, the adults see that the thing that blew out the tire is made with a tooth. That's really creepy. So they should have kept on keeping on, and they don't start moving again until it's like nighttime and too late, and the creeper takes out another tire. Meanwhile, back at the farm, Ray Wise and the kid that was in Little Big League and the wizard, who's the older brother, are like creating this contraption, this post hole puncher 500. What was it called? Post puncher 500, which is an amazing thing that he's bolting down to the bed of his pickup truck while he's checking the scanner to see what the police are looking for. And they get where they hear that a bus has been stranded on an isolated road, and they head that way. I really don't want to say anything negative about the teenage characters in this movie, because they're not all that bad. There's just not much there. And you never really feel attached to any of them. Even at the end, when the creeper attacks the bus, and some of them are like trying to save their own ass and not opening the door. See, I do like this. In the first one, the old black lady talks about how Barry. She talks about Barry and how he's got a smell for you because he was sniffing his underwear in the parking lot of the gas station. So he obviously, there's certain humans that have smells that he likes. And in this one, they amplified a little bit because he like teases all the kids on the bus. He puts his nose against the glass and like sniffs. And then he like smiles and tells them to move out of the way until he like identifies the ones that he wants. And when the kids see this, they start to isolate from those guys and they're like, get off the bus. He wants you. Now, there's a ton of unrealistic stuff in this movie. One, you can't take a javelin and shove it through the top of a school bus. I don't give a shit how strong you are. You'd have to be Bill Kazmaier for that to work. And it just doesn't work like that. You don't automatically become psychic either. Like the blonde-headed chick who's a weirdo, she immediately sees Justin Long in a field, and he tells her for every 23 days, every 23 years for 23 days, he comes and he eats. So that led to my question of, does the creeper know his timeline? Like, is he aware that this is day 23? Or does he just wake up from his slumber and he's like all over the place until he turns into that little shell that we finally see at the end of this movie? Spoiler alert. But is he aware of his timeline? Because if he's aware of his timeline, would he be wasting his time like dumping bodies places? Because he's going to be gone for 23 years. I mean, is it really that important that he takes these bodies and he preserves them for when he comes back? It wouldn't seem like that. It seems like something that a person that never goes away would try to do. And I think it's creepier if he never goes away. But I do think it's a better story that every 23 years, this legend is unleashed onto everybody in that area. So, I mean, I thought it was a valid question. Does he know his time is up? Because if he knows his time is up, why is he wasting all this time on the school bus when he could be attacking easier prey, I guess is the word that we should say right there. The kids get him again. They stab him through the face and he falls down and through the school bus, and it's like a creepy escape scene. The farmers show up with the Punch Hole 3000 and they shoot him a bunch of times. He chases the kids. There's a bunch of brutal death scenes throughout the movie. He kills all the adults immediately. There's just a few kids left at the end. There's a brutal scene where the major asshole of the movie gets I want to say it's like a knife shoved through his hand into the tree, and he's trying to get loose. And then the creeper just sweeps down and gets him. He has that moment where he's like, please save me, please save me, please save me. And then they just take him away. There's a ton of unrealistic stuff in this movie. Like there's a massive car wreck where there's like, they're trying to drive away from the creeper. There's a kid in the back. No way that kid in the back lived after that truck flipped the way it did. And then at the end, when the creeper's all messed up and he's hopping around and there's a cool fire scene in the background, he's jumping towards one of these characters when the Punch Hole 500 gets him right between the eyes. And he's still alive. And then Ray Wise walks out there with all this pain in his face of losing his youngest son, and he just stabs this guy over and over and over, and like the creeper's bleeding out his mouth. The creeper's looking at him like, you son of a bitch, and he's just stabbing him over and over and over. It's a real brutal scene. And then all of a sudden, boom, the creeper just starts to shrink back into what looks like a little shell. And it's over with. The 23 days is over. Then we have like a time jump. And this confused me. I was really confused because in the time jump, people drive up in like old-timey vehicles, which led me to ask in one of my notes, how old is it? I mean, what time frame is this movie taking place in? because it looks very modern with the cell phones. But we fast forward 23 years at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, and Ray Wise is sitting there as an old man, and the kid from Little Big League and the Wizard, this is no longer him, it's another character, and they're all at the barn, and they have strapped up the creeper onto the wall with the shell that used to be his head, and you can see all the crows around him, and they're charging people $5 to see, you know, the amazing bat guy or whatever.
Step right up, folks. See if you can outdrive the amazing golf ball whacker guy.
These three teens are like, how long has he been up there? And he goes, 23 years, give or take a day. And he's got the punch hole 500 pointing right at him, and then just goes, boop. But it leaves me, I mean, what year is this movie taking place? Because it should have been like Marty McFly cars and Back to the Future 2 if we go 23 years forward. So that was the only complaint I had about this movie. I did think that the creeper had titties there at the end, but I quickly found out that was his ribs. So no Transformer creeper for this movie. It's a really good story. Now, they really screwed it up in part 3. Part 3 sucks, and I've never even seen the one past part 3 where they're like an amusement park or something like that. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about where that movie takes place. I heard such bad things about it. But, I mean, Jeepers Creepers and Jeepers Creepers 2 are two solid movies, a great first movie and a really good sequel that might in some ways be better than part 1. So I'm going to give this like a 7.1. Ray Wise is fantastic in this movie. I mean, huge fan of Ray Wise from this movie. The creeper is great. The characters do just enough. The farmers are the best. The punch hole 500 is amazing. And it's really, you got a bunch of jump scares, really creepy, really scary, everything you want from a horror movie. So check it out if you've never seen it. And Blake did pick this movie. He picked like 1,000 sequels for us to go over, and here I am by myself. Day 4, guys, October the 4th. Hopefully you guys are just mutilating the horror movies. I know there's a ton of content out there on YouTube to watch. Go check out your favorite channels. And hopefully but definitely I will see you guys tomorrow.